questions? All right, wonderful. So hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Lori Ann Stretch, and I am the coordinator of the online counseling program, and we're so excited to have you with us tonight. Tonight, we are going to do just a few reminders from the program, and then we will turn it over to our wonderful student ambassador panel, who is going to be talking to you for most of tonight. So I'm going to let the faculty who are here, though, introduce themselves. So Dr. Martin, you're right beside me, so you get to go first.
All right, good evening, everybody. So welcome to our town hall. I'm Dr. Jessica Martin. I am the CMHC lead in the online counseling program, and I am rounding out the end of my second year. So it's great to see all of you and welcome.
Thank you. All right, Professor Easley, you're next on my list.
Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Professor Olivia Easley. This is my second term, and I am so excited to meet all of you, for those of you who haven't met me. And I'm excited to see what we talk about tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. And Dr. Pam Harris.
Hello, everyone. I am Pam Harris. I am the school counseling lead faculty for the online program. And just like Dr. Martin, I'm rounding out my second year at William & Mary. And welcome, hello, and hello to a lot of familiar faces that I haven't got to see this term yet. So good to see you all.
All right, it is wonderful to see everybody. So I love that we all get to know each other and spend time together. All right, so just a couple of program announcements. One is that the faculty and I believe cohort 7 have residency next week. So if you are trying to reach your faculty and you don't get a response right away, please know we're in residency, and we would really appreciate your patience and understanding, because we're going to be really focused on residency. And I'm also going to really encourage the faculty to practice self-care at the end of the day and not check their email and get some rest, because we're just as exhausted as you guys are after a day of residency. So please just remember that for that next week. And then also, a lot of your faculty will be away the following week for the American Counseling Association meeting. So you may also experience some delays during that week. Again, we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. I will definitely be at ACA. So that first full week of April, just know I may be a little slow to respond between Wednesday and Sunday because of the conference. Okay, but I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And then one other announcement is just a reminder to everybody that we are trying to make sure that you have all the skills you need to be a professional counselor and to be received as such in the field. And one of those tools that we use is the American Psychological Association writing format. So if you are going to be a helping professional, you are expected to know how to write in APA format. So your faculty members are not just being mean. They are actually trying to help you develop into professional counselor and to know the language and how to communicate. If you can't communicate in APA format, other professionals will not take you seriously. They will see that you don't have quality of training. They will discredit your work, no matter how good it is. If you can't write it, if you can't communicate in the form of APA format, it will diminish the quality of your work and the perception, at least, of your work. So please invest the time necessary to understand and know how to utilize APA. Seek out support through the Writing Center, through APA Style, through your faculty, because this is a skill that is essential to your development as a professional member. In fact, if I'm right, Dr. Martin, we're integrating that into the first course in the coming term. So we're going to be embedding that into the first course. So that's how important we think it is, that it's something that we're going to be really investing time into, making sure you know how to communicate utilizing APA format. So I just wanted everybody to know that it's not, faculty members just being kind of, crazy about the format. There's a reason why we have you doing that. Okay. And there's a reason why faculty stress that because it is important. It's important for you to be viewed as a quality and well-prepared professional. Okay. And then I saw Professor Waddell slide in, so I wanted to give her a chance to introduce herself as well. So Professor Waddell, you could just say hi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Latoya Waddell, and this is my second session here, and I've really enjoyed the experience and enjoyed being able to interact with everyone. And so I'm also excited, like Professor Easley said, to see what we're going to do tonight and get involved.
And then we will introduce the next faculty member who has a brand new title as of today, and that is Dr. Portia Daniels, who we are so proud of, who successfully defended today. So congratulations, Dr. Daniel, well done. So Dr. Daniels, if you can introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Dr. LA. I am Dr. Daniels. It feels funny to say that out loud to you all. Definitely, I have appreciated being able to share this space with you all at William & Mary. I'm excited to be able to engage in this type of discussion tonight, and I just embrace this opportunity to be able to learn more about you all and know how I can better support the needs of each one of you. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. All right, and then Crystal Cherry, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but are there any CSI updates?
As far as updates are concerned, we are working to put together another speaker series that should be coming up quite soon. We also have a event for our graduates that are graduating this summer, spring, and fall, a time for us to get together and, just share the moment. And so those are our two main events coming up very soon. There should be flyers in your email, so look out for those.
Yes, exactly. I did send an email out to all the 2022 graduates from Jerry Mize. I sent it out from my email, so everybody should have that. Also wanted to highlight that we've already had 2 really great webinars for this term, but we have another webinar, the second half of telebehavioral health, coming up on April 2nd. And then we have the following week, we have Dr. Corey Clark is doing one on the 11th called the Big A's, Anxiety, ADHD, and Autism Spectrum Disorder. So that's at 6:30 on April 11th. So I hope that you can join us on some of those. We have a lot of fun at the webinars and we learn wonderful, amazing things. Also, just next Tuesday morning, there is the keynote for the residency. Pam, you might know the name better than I do. So I know it's Sean McNulty, but do you remember what the title is for the keynote?
I just wrote it again. It is, I actually just put it in the announcements for my multicultural class. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, and I'll post that as an announcement in the program office. I think I have, but I can't.
It is working with LGBTQIA+ clients, a queer perspective.
Yes. Okay. So I'll make sure that there's another announcement about that in the main board of our program office, so that if you're interested in attending the keynote, you do not have to be enrolled in residency currently to participate in the keynote. We do record those. We put them on the program office so that everybody has access to them. So that's something that we like to make sure that we give people opportunities. We've had some incredible speakers. So I think it's a really wonderful resource and a repository of information for you in the program office. Okay, so I will turn it over to Claire Madeline Corso now, who is our captain of our student ambassadors. And Claire, you may want to introduce the student ambassadors and just say what they are a little bit too. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Am I allowed to share my screen?
Yes, you absolutely can do that.
Perfect. So this is one of the things that I'm consistently terrible at, no matter how many times we have to do it. I apologize to everyone. Let's see. This should be the only thing that I have to do. Share sound. All right, you guys can see the
Yes.
thing that says professional dispositions.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we are the student ambassadors. We're going to be speaking towards the professional dispositions. If you were at the last town hall this term, like the previous mini-mester, Dr. LA did an amazing job kind of going over everything. And we so encourage you to watch that recording if it's not something that you were able to attend. We're certainly not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We just want to offer you a student perspective. So There we go. All right. So who we are the student ambassadors. We're a group of student leaders. There are like 13 to 15 of us now who are available for mentorship and support from everything from super practical questions about fieldwork or registration, if you want a student perspective on how to help with that, to how you navigate overwhelm and manage certain course loads, if that's something that you're needing to support with. We have student-led groups throughout the terms. We have a book club, student-led skills labs. We have a coffee and conversation chat where you can just kind of talk about your week. We do that every other week. And all of that is going to be located in our Welcome magazine, which should be dropped in the chat now or shortly, and is also available at that QR code if you want to go ahead and get your phone out and scan it. Literally everything that you need is in there. If you have any issues with any of the links or trouble getting your calendar to sync, just email me. I'm more than happy to go ahead and help you navigate that. In there, you're also able to meet all of our student ambassadors. For those who are present this evening, they have the SA at the end of their name. Reach out to them personally, either during the presentation or sometime later. All their contact information is going to be in that link. Oops. Okay, so just some reflections on how we can help when it comes to professional dispositions, like what we can think about, how we can help you kind of think through these, right? So we can help you figure out how you navigate it when you need help clarifying assignments. For me, my biggest thing was managing perfectionism, communicating effectively when things get difficult, and transitioning self-doubt perspectives that are like laden with self-doubt to a perspective of self-empowerment. Yeah, so we're available for all of that. So something that we encourage you to have on hand are academic policies, the student handbook, and the professional code of ethics. So I think something that I've really learned in this program is that we aren't just students, we're counselors in training. So above and beyond being students of the School of Education, we're developing our competencies as how to be counselors. And that's not exclusively an academic thing. It's a very relational thing. And there's so much self-development that I've found kind of comes out of the program. So I want to ask you this question, and just, you don't need to share anything. If you want to drop something in the chat, you feel comfortable doing that, totally do it. But I just kind of want to invite you to reflect on this. What does it feel like to know that you're being an excellent student? Like, what does it actually feel like? When you excel, how do you know that you're excelling? So I'm just going to be quiet for a second, let you think about that. And like I said, if anybody wants to drop anything in the chat, they're totally welcome to. And then some of us might be in field work. Some of us might not be. Okay, so we've got, I feel like I'm changing and growing. You feel good. Yeah, for me, I feel good about myself. When I know that I'm being an excellent student, I feel good about myself. Okay. And for those of us who are in field work, we might be able to speak to this with a lot more like expediency, but even if you're not, I just want you to kind of think about what it might feel like to be an excellent counselor. Like, how would you know? If anybody is in field work and they want to drop in the chat how they know that they're doing a good job at counseling, and just let us know. Good relationships with patients, so you have a good rapport. And I don't know if what that kind of makes me think, Shauna, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but what that makes me think about is like, I have a feeling of ease. Like I have a feeling of ease in that relationship, and I get feedback that like that relationship is going well. So then I want to ask you to ask yourself if those things align, if the way that you know that you're being an excellent student aligns with the way that you know that you're being a good counselor. Okay, building rapport and confidence in your abilities. Yeah, so I think confidence is common among both. Like there's you know that you're being a good student, it makes you feel confident. And when you have that feeling of confidence, you're able to navigate the kind of challenges of the situation. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight in my experience. For me, they did not align. When I knew that I was being a good student, I felt like I was extremely confident in my abilities, like Crystal shared in the chat. I felt like I was very certain. When I feel like I'm being a good student, I feel like I'm very certain. I feel like I'm well practiced. I know what it is that I need to do. I know what the objective is, and I'm certain in my ability to execute and to perform. And so when there was a misalignment for me in how I typically know that I'm doing a good job in an academic setting, and how I learned to know that I was doing a good job in the counseling space, it was really uncomfortable for me. I learned that being in the counseling setting requires being comfortable in ambiguity. And I was really comfortable with certainty. Being in the counseling setting requires that you navigate that gray in such a way that sometimes you're going to get feedback that there's resistance, especially in the counseling relationship. When your clients are making good progress, you're going to come up against resistance. And then that feels like pushback. And that feels like, am I doing a good thing here? Am I confident enough in my abilities to know how to navigate this? And so as I moved forward, I started to learn that I really have this perfectionistic tendency. And the way that I went about approaching education was being carried over into the way that I was approaching developing as a counselor. So in a way, it was as though I had this idea of what it meant to be a great counselor that was very outside of myself. And I was trying to perform my way into looking like that was what I was doing. So I had to ask myself, like, what does it mean to be a counselor in training? What does it mean for me to navigate this in a way that I can continue to check in with myself and make sure that I'm continuing to grow so that I can feel that feeling of ease and confidence and competency? I realized that it was a really relational process. And rather than putting this identity of a great counselor outside of myself, I needed to kind of grow into my identity as a counselor. I needed to start from where I am and grow from there. And so that's where these professional dispositions, as I started to learn about what they were, really became helpful, because they were a way of orienting myself to what are the values that need to guide the way that I inhabit this identity so that I can be sure that I'm growing in a way that has integrity. So we're just going to list them here. There's openness to new ideas, flexibility, cooperativeness with others, willingness to accept and use feedback. And you can kind of read through all of them. So what they do is they kind of serve as this like brick and like this mortar type texture that has allowed me to kind of piece together the way to navigate hard things. So we're going to hear from student ambassador perspectives on this, because I think that it can be really nerve-wracking to realize that we're being evaluated on these things all of the time. But if we take ownership over what that looks like, it's not this scary thing. It's this really exciting and this really helpful thing. And we just want to encourage everybody to lean into that in like the spirit of like having these is really helpful and empowering. So I am just going to ask for student ambassadors who are present right now. Sorry, I'm struggling to pull up what it is that I need to see, to share about how when they've come up against an experience that was like uncomfortable or challenging in a way. For me, sometimes I like get extremely frustrated. How have they navigated that, and how have they used these dispositions to sort of orient themselves to what their next steps are? So Sandra, are you able to share first?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra. You can call me Sandy. I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I am out in my second half of practicum, and I'm loving it. I would say that the number one thing that I have learned from this program, from being in practicum, from just being in the field, is really being open to new ideas. I really resonate with that competency, just being very open-minded. In this program, I've learned so much about myself and who I am as a person and who I am in the counseling chair. And I've been able to really build that therapeutic rapport with my clients and just giving myself as much availability as I can to them and being present with them. And I think what's really helped me is checking in with myself and how I'm doing, being in self-care, having self-care be a priority, and just really checking in with myself every day before I go into session and grounding. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned.
So Sandra, can you speak for a second to like, has there been a moment where you were like, oh, I'm feeling resistant to that openness, or openness is uncomfortable for me?
I would say that today, actually, I had a client who I wanted to ask a certain question. I knew it kind of be like uncomfortable, maybe be opening up Pandora's box. And I just checked in with my counselor intuition and I just asked the question, and it brought an amazing conversation. And they were kind of waiting for me to like pick up on that thing. And I think just kind of trusting my gut and really seeing like where the client's at too can be really challenging sometimes, but it's amazing when you do make that progress and when you do take that jump, how much you can really, how therapeutic it can be.
Yeah, that space of discomfort is like where all the growth happens.
Absolutely. Even in my own therapy, like
Yeah,
discomfort it's scary, especially silence for me personally as a counselor. It's really scary. Our counselor in training is really scary, but I think it's also opened me up to being uncomfortable, and that's okay. And we're still in training and we're going to be uncomfortable a lot more times, I think, than we realize. So yeah.
absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Mary, can you share a little?
Yeah, thanks, Claire, and thanks for sharing, Sandra. Hi, everybody. My name is Mary, and I am in my second year. I'll be starting practicum in the fall, and I currently live in Utah. And something for this program that's been a big takeaway for me is flexibility and adaptability, which I think is a disposition that I think actually kind of covers the rest of the dispositions in a way. I think being flexible and adaptable is so applicable to so many things in this program, not only in the education piece as we're learning, but developing that professional competency when we become a counselor. When I think about how like adapting to even just things in this program as things is, new information that you get, and it kind of shakes some things in you a little bit. Especially like the class that I'm in now, actually with Dr. LA, has been a class that has caused me to really face some biases and knowledges that I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that I felt like that until I really got into that, and really promoting that flexible thinking and kind of also connecting what Sandra was saying, that openness to new ideas. And especially I reflect on the techniques class, and you're sitting there in your practices and you're like, oh, I know how this is going to go. I have such a good idea. Mm-hmm. And then the person says something, you're like, I have no ideas anymore. And adapting to that situation in real time and working with the person and recognizing that it's okay to be flexible, that we don't have to be these rigid one-dimensional people, because life is dynamic, and being a student's dynamic as well as being a counselor, because the person that we'll be working with is dynamic as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Megan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Kamaski. I've recently moved to Maryland from Williamsburg, Virginia, and I am in my last 36 days in the program. So I'll be graduating in May, and I'm a school counselor. So I am speaking from a little different perspective, but all of these dispositions apply to school counseling as well. I want to say especially, I'm not counting at all. I will say, on a little side note, I will absolutely miss this program because of the support from my peers and my professors. So I'm having a little bit of graduation anxiety, but I am very happy to be in the field. So I'm in my I've actually finished all my hours in internship. So I am full on in the school right now. And the biggest asset that I have found is the ability to cooperate with others, and to be open and willing to accept feedback. And I, like Claire, am a perfectionist, and so I struggle with not doing things correctly. So sometimes feedback can be difficult when you really want to be perfect. And I would just say, if you're starting school counseling, you really want to lean into that feeling, because I go to work almost daily and ask for feedback, not only from my supervisor, but from my colleagues. And I feel that that has made me like I have gotten superpowers from that. Because although it can be very difficult to initially hear that something that you want to be perfect is not, just having that supportive conversation with a colleague can really enhance your ability to help your students or your clients. And I actually, and that's one of the biggest changes that I've had through this program, is that although I still am a perfectionist, I do really appreciate all the feedback that I get, because I just think that it will make us more available and open to the students, in my case, that we support. And also cooperating with others. School counseling, in your middle and high schools, you are operating most often within a team, and being a team player is and learning and being able to work with others is essential to getting your job done. So I don't want to take up all the time. I know there's
No, that's okay.
a lot of wonderful student ambassadors with great things to say, but please feel free to reach out if you are on the school counseling track, and I would be more than happy to discuss my experience.
I have one follow-up question for you, Megan.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So when you noticed that you were like, I just want to do a perfect job and I don't know how to receive the feedback that like I didn't do a perfect job or whatever that was like, how did you go from like feeling that like that first feeling to feeling the second feeling, which is like, oh, this is really valuable and like growth oriented? Like, how did you go from one to the other?
I have done a lot of reflecting throughout this program, and I wasn't great at it when I first started. But I would go home, and journaling is something that I do with my students, and I would write down some of those feelings. So I think when you grow enough to be able to reflect on your actions, you begin to see how that, it's not a criticism, but I've had the great experience to have amazing supervisors who, feedback can be really hard. And especially when you just really want to do a great job. But, sitting with that reflection, and I know that we really focus on that a lot in this program, and wanting to just you learn that it's not about you. It is really about your student. And the more that you can pour into reflection, the more that you'll be able to give. And that's a process.
Yeah.
It was for me. It was
Yeah.
not instantaneous.
Yeah, it's for sure a process. And I feel like that's where the professional dispositions really come in handy, is that if you treat the program kind of like as this microcosm of your professional world after you leave, every single aspect of it, every part of yourself that you bump into as you move through the program is an opportunity for you to do just that, for you to do that reflection around like what's coming up for you here. Like okay, I want to do a perfect job. What's behind that? What's behind that? And I feel like when you get behind all of those things, you can clear them out in order to focus on, but what's my real objective here?
Right.
And for me, I needed to really learn, I needed to completely reconceptualize, how do I think about my learning objectives? I haven't thought about them in the way that's aligned with what is required of developing counselors. And I find that the professional dispositions really help me check in to be like, am I moving towards those things? Are those the things that I'm really focusing on as I'm completing, each of the aspects of the program? So thanks so much for sharing, Megan.
Thank you.
All righty, Brittany. Are you here?
Hi. Yeah,
Hey.
sorry, it took me a second. Can you guys hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay. My name is Brittany and I live in Northern Virginia and I am starting my second year in the program. And I was thinking about the question. For me, I think I kind of put this in my bio, but one of the hardest things was the multiculturalism class. Like I remember watching the first video and I really appreciate the instructor was kind of talking about how their own biases and how everyone has them, but to be honest and reflective in it. And so I remember like sitting down for that class and I was like, I am going to try to be as honest as possible with myself. And it was interesting because everyone does have some biases, but it was just so nice in the class. It gave us an opportunity to have discussions to kind of personally grow. And then, but from that class, it opened me up to new ideas about power and privilege and how I do have privilege that I can use to extend to help others. And I really appreciated when I was in that class, I went to a panel discussion and I remember it just like taught me so much and like opened my eyes to like seeing what I can do to help and use my privilege to help others. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Brittany.
Yeah.
And Crystal, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Hi.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Crystal Cherry, and I am currently in Richmond, Virginia. I'm in my second year of the program, and I'm in my second portion of practicum, which has been going really good now. Due to all of these competencies that we are discussing, I feel like they have made me a lot more confident. Like I said in the chat earlier, confidence is key when what I learned from my professor in group supervision and what I learned throughout the program is like really honing in on your abilities and taking that with you wherever you go. But specifically, some of the competencies that I feel have really shown up, especially lately within this week alone, is flexibility and cooperativeness with others. Like my practicum site is at an elementary school. And when I first got there, easily I gravitated towards younger students. But my site supervisor was like, I see that you do well with these younger students. I want you to work with 5th grade. And I almost lost it because they're like the same size as me. I'm 5'2", they're 5'4". They're like in 5th grade. They're like way taller than me. And I'm thinking like, they're going to be like, this girl's lame. I do not want to be around her. And I was like losing my mind. But then I thought about it and I was like, okay, well, I have to, eventually it'll be a thing. So I just had to step into that discomfort and really be open to that new idea of, okay, this is something different, but how can you learn from it? So I try learning to take everything as a learning opportunity. Throughout this program, everything that I do, everything that I've completed and done throughout the time, I look at it as a learning opportunity. How can I grow from this? How can I learn from this? And what can I do with it moving forward? Like, how can I myself better moving forward? How can I be more professional moving forward? And really just taking that time to reflect on different situations. So these dispositions have always been helpful, especially now that I'm in practicum and really like experiencing what it's like on a professional level. I think that it's really prepared me to, understand the counseling world and be able to navigate myself in that.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was done.
I was just going to say, it's amazing how much we do in order to protect ourselves from this feeling of imposter syndrome. It's like there's this desire to stay in the comfort zone. And same thing that you're saying, there have been so many times where like I'll have a client that I'm like, I don't know that this symptom presentation is like super comfortable for me. And they're just like, right, so go in there and navigate that. similar to your situation with needing to be with some of the older kids. And it's just so amazing how we do so many things in order to just keep ourselves comfortable. And I just want to encourage everybody to notice, when is that what's coming up? Do you have anything else to add, Crystal?
Oh, no, that was it.
You got it. Thank you so much. Okay. So I'm going to share a good old Carl Rogers quote. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. And just encouraging everybody to kind of meet yourself where you're at in the process of moving through the program. Becoming a counselor, I feel like, is a really long haul. I don't feel like we become it at the end of the program. We have a couple of years of residency after that, and it's a long process. And so for me, the questions have increasingly become like, how do I acknowledge where I am in my development in this moment in relation to the larger picture, and choose what it is that I'm going to focus on toward that larger goal. So you have some links in the chat. The Welcome magazine is there, some instructions on how to add calendars. We have recommended bookmarks with a lot of the documents that we mentioned here, which are all in the program office as well. And then all of the handbooks that are there, Dr. L.A.'s presentation. And we just want to encourage you to reach out as questions kind of come up in the program. Yeah, we've got Courtney in the chat inviting everybody to reach out, and you can find everybody's contact information in that Welcome magazine. We are literally a text message or a group me or an email away. So reach out with any questions.
All right, so we're going to be able to open it up for other questions that they may have?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you can do it in the chat. You can come off mute. What questions?
I think one of the things, yeah, Sandra would love to meet people in person. So one of the things that you're going to see from us in the next couple of days, not tonight or tomorrow, but probably Saturday after all of the town halls are complete, is sort of like a reflection prompt around where you've come up against like your own resistance in the program, whether it's an assignment that you don't, I don't know, this came up all the time for me in statistics. Thank you so much, Dr. L.A., for your additional support there, where I was just like, this is outside my zone of competency. There's no possible way that I could learn this. Or other areas where I felt like I needed my experience doing the assignment and completing the assignment was going to be a learning experience. It wasn't going to be like, and here's the outcome. It was going to be very process oriented and like, that's what everybody was going to see. I came up with a lot of resistance there. And for me, resistance felt like frustration. It felt like, in some ways, avoidance and procrastination. I guess my question to you is, if anybody has any like kind of on the fly insight into this, a situation that they're in that they're noticing that resistance. If they just want to reflect on like what that is or what that feels like, you don't need to share the situation if you don't want, but if you could just reflect for a second on like, what is the feeling? And if you want to share on that, I'm happy to, kind of open up that for discussion if nobody knows what randomly to say. Or if anybody has questions about the essays in general.
I have a question, and then I'll let
Sure.
Megan go because I don't want to cut Megan off. But I've heard you talk about internal process, and I'm wondering what external resources did you use to work through that feeling?
Me personally.
Just in general. I'm just asking in general for everybody. So some of you can chat. Was there anything outside of yourself that you also use that help you work through that?
I go to my own therapy. I go bi-weekly, and anytime something triggers me in session, and like really badly, like, oh my gosh, I still need to work on this, I just write it down and I bring it with me. I also am a big journaler. I know a lot of people talk about journaling, but seriously, just sitting down with yourself and processing has been amazing for me, especially my first semester of practicum, because your personal life doesn't just stop. And I'm also on the search for a group, not necessarily a like counseling group, but like a hiking group or a beach group. I live near the beach, like just some kind of extracurricular activity to bring you close to others. And I value support from other people, I'm a big extrovert. So just kind of looking into yourself and what you need and what you want, I think is also really important. But I don't know if I can recommend things, but I recommend going to your own counseling. That's big for me.
That's a good one, Sandra. That's really good.
So external resources, I've used the program a lot. I feel like I've kind of kept a Rolodex of everybody's information, like who's who, what do they offer support with, what are their Zoom office hours, how do they prefer to be in communication with? Like, I made sure that I had those resources. It was something that I was super nervous about in being an online student for the first time. I wanted to know who my people were. And I got to a place where I had a lot of trust with all of those people. So my desire to present as like, I'm totally capable and like I'm managing everything. I had a lot of things unfold in the beginning of the program that was not the reality. Like that was not the reality that I was in, and I needed a lot of support. And so I have trust with everyone in the program, like with every faculty member that I've had. I have a lot of trust with all of them. And so I think building those relationships is important, especially in an online program. If I am not clear about the objective of an assignment, this comes up a lot for me because I get so fixated on stuff that I really need help making sure that I know, wait, am I focusing on the most important thing, or am I hyper focusing on all of these details that are making me spin my wheels and do all of this work? I see Dr. Martin nodding. I've had so many of these conversations with Dr. Martin in particular. That I'm really just missing the point. And I think every single one of those conversations has helped in dismantling my bias in terms of what am I expecting everybody to be judging my performance around? Mm-hmm. And they've really helped me reframe an understanding of how do people evaluate the performance of developing counselors? I brought a lot into my experience in this academic institution that was like, misplaced in the sense that it just wasn't a part of how you go about becoming a good counselor. It's not how you be a counseling student. Being a counseling student is different than being other types of students, other students in different contexts. And so it's taken, I mean, I'm not done having those conversations, and I'm almost done in like a couple of weeks. So it's an ongoing process. And I think also allowing myself to be frustrated. I really struggled with group work, like in particular. Part of that I think comes from like the practical reality of being very limited for time. And it took me a really long time to realize that it's not always about delivering the most flawless group presentation. A lot of times it's about the learning process of getting to the place where you've completed the assignment. How did you navigate all of those dynamics? So there was a two-part process for me to navigate that. That was internal and external. The internal process was, or the external process was, I needed to allow myself to be frustrated and like tell people all about it. Like I needed to figure out who my trusted people were. I feel like Dr. LA was one of those people more times than once. Just to be like, oh my gosh, I am losing it. And then I got it out of my system, and then I moved on. And then the internal process was, okay, I had this vision for what this was going to turn into, but it's not an independent project, it's a group project. So instead, what growth, like what interpersonal growth do I need to have in this experience? And how is that going to be the measure of my success? And maybe that was just, I don't know, that's taken so many different forms. But I really encourage kind of weaving those two things together, figuring out what it is that you need to grow in by being really open with how you're feeling, and then making that a process that you engage throughout the program across every kind of assignment, and not just like academic assignment, but assignment, like any task that we have to do as part of the program. That becomes more important than anything else.
I think another external process or resources is finding a friend in the program. I think one of the struggles, right, of being online is feel like it's easy to feel isolated. It's easy to feel alone when you're looking at assignments, when you're looking at things, you're like, am I the only one reading these instructions wrong? Like, am I dumb? Like, what's going on? And I think it's easy to feel like that, and finding connections with people as well as Claire said, through the group assignments, right? As you get to know people, and then trying to figure that out and making those connections with people so that you can process that with other people, especially with the cohort, and that people who are in the same spot as you, that you can relate to them. And another one that's become helpful for me, I think I've met one other person who's in the program in the same state that I'm in, right? So there's not a lot of people out here. And so it's not like you can just go try to meet somebody, but I've been networking a lot with the local counseling community and have found a mentor that I'm working with that I'm actually going to be able to intern with and do that there. But it's been nice to have that support where I've taken some questions that I've had from coursework and materials and then gotten greater insights, taking that to a mentor who's, working with people every day in the chair. And that's been a great way to process all these other different things that come up. Sometimes my mentor meetings, I think sometimes feel like therapy. They're not supposed to be, but sometimes it feels like it. But that's been a great extra resource for me, is finding a mentor in my area.
Thanks, Mary. Claire, so one of the students has asked about clarifying about residency. I just wanted to give some logistics of it real quick.
Yeah.
And then if you guys can talk more about the experiential. So residency is a 3-day experience. And right now it's virtual. It'll be virtual through the end of 2022. And then we hope to move back into an in-person residency starting in 2023. And so for right now, the virtual residency runs Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of usually week 4 of the B term when you take techniques class, and when you take your group class, it goes from 9:30 a.m. to 6:15 p.m. all 3 days. And it's pretty intense rotation of clinical labs, practicing your clinical skills. There's a suicide risk assessment training, case conceptualization training, and some social justice components as well. But most of the residency is really focused on demonstrating and practicing your skills and getting feedback on those skills. And Res 2, whereas Res 1 is focused mostly on individual counseling skills, Res 2 is focused mostly on group counseling skills, but there is some individual counseling skills practice. So I will turn it over to the essays to talk about, because most of you have had your at least one residency already.
This might sound like it's weird, but I would say get a good chair. I know it sounds weird, but for me, I thought I had a really good pillow on my chair and it was exhausting. Physically, you're thinking you're sitting all day. It shouldn't be exhausting. It's already emotionally a very tiring experience. It's also very invigorating. I feel like there's a lot of emotions that you go through residency, but physically taking care of yourself, making sure you have water. I mean, Dr. Lay, when we started residency, she's just if you need to turn off your camera to go to the bathroom, don't feel like you have to hold it in, but really getting a good chair so that you're physically comfortable through that process. I know that sounds silly, but it really does make a difference, because by the end of the time I was done, I was like, wow, my body can't do this. And when you take a break, getting away from your computer, taking a walk, going outside was the best thing. And that was advice from Dr. Lay when we started, and it's definitely advice worth taking.
Yeah, now that you're reflecting on that, Mary, I feel like I didn't, it has taken me until I think this very moment to appreciate that experience of being in residency, that feeling of being with yourself kind of so intensely, and being in the presence of other people's, just their presence, the presence of other people. It's an intense, it's more exaggerated, but there's something very similar to what it is to have a full-time position where you're in a mental health space. You're sitting for a long period of time. You're coming up against yourself in terms of what comes up when you're interacting with clients, and you're holding space for other people's big feelings. And so I don't know, I feel like for me, that was the first moment where I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. This is what this is all about. It was the beginning of the dismantling of a lot of things, I feel like. And it was sort of a slow process of coming to understand that the program creates an experience that provides me with some foundational understandings, like some foundational academic understandings, but some, more importantly, foundational relational understandings. And I am not going to have them all nailed down by the time the program is done. That is not the goal. It's preparing you to be able to continue on in the field so that you then become competent and capable as you advance in your profession. So yeah, for what that's worth.
I keep thinking about what Mary said about finding people through this program. And I thought going into residency, I was very curious about how it would feel just being virtual, and residency is a very vulnerable place to be. There's a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-learning, but I came out of residency with my group in a group text, like stronger relationships with people, stronger friendships. And that kind of became my little like resource bubble going forward, that I could reach out to a friend. I can reach out to see how about this class, that class, and which has been like one of my favorite parts. And like Sandra said, we're like BFFs, we're going on vacation together. Like that can come out of this program, which is so cool.
I want to echo Courtney's enthusiasm. I loved residency. I'm again sad I cannot attend another one, that it's over for me. It is one of the most invigorating experiences in this program. That is also where I found all my buddies that I can't wait to see at graduation. But it's also, I felt such a safe place to get feedback. I'm going back to this feedback thought of getting feedback, because we did so many counseling sessions, and you were able to really experience, like, relax and actually counsel in an environment where you could get feedback. No one was judging you. And I really can say that, you know, my counseling cohort is probably one of the most inspirational and comforting groups that I probably will ever find, and in the field as well. So please take advantage of residency. It is 3 amazing days, and hopefully you'll get as much out of it as I think all the rest of us have kind of related that we did. But just be open for feedback and ask for it. You know, people are so supportive in that atmosphere, in that environment.
Yeah, Megan, I completely agree. And I think that a lot of the feedback comes with being kind to yourself. I know that I struggled a lot with constructive criticism at the beginning of the program, even like in my personal life before the program. But then once my first residency came, I was like, that's okay that I'm getting this, and I'm learning, and I shouldn't know everything, because if you do, or if you think you know everything, you don't. And I think that it was a very also humbling experience as well. And it honestly really gets you to really see where you are in the program and like what you need to work on, maybe what you're really good at, maybe what your strong suits are, finding your strengths. And just like I said, journaling, like every day after residency, I would journal like the things that I learned about myself, and just giving yourself that gratitude. And whoever said going for a walk afterwards, you should do that. Get up and move your body. And yeah. So just be kind to yourself, not just the residency, but really throughout the whole program. Like if you don't do good on an assignment or something. And I've never encountered a professor in this program who wasn't completely supportive, who didn't, reply within like, a couple days. And everyone is just so, so great. So just take advantage of that and your peers.
And Sandra, I would build off what you said in the sense that I try to tell students, take residency, take your skills classes and stuff as if they're a coaching session. And so it's not a session where you demonstrate what you know. It's a session where you get to work on what you know, right? Where you get to develop what you know. And I think if you can come into those experiences with the mindset of I'm here to learn, I'm here to get feedback, I'm here to, be better at what I do, it makes it a whole lot easier than if you come into those experiences expecting to show us what you know, because that's not what it's about.
And I also tell people to plan ahead. Like if you know your residency is coming, to plan to have those days off and childcare. And I know that I had to think really, really like months ahead of time. Whenever you find out, just, you know, pave the right path for yourself to be successful in that week.
All right, well, I'm conscious of time. I want to thank all of the student ambassadors and Claire for your leadership. It has been a wonderful, wonderful town hall. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you found it helpful, whether you're a prospective student, a current student, and congratulations to our soon-to-be graduates. I'm very excited for you. All right, thank you. Bye, Jessica.
Hi, Dr. LA.
Hey, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm doing well.
There is another town hall tomorrow morning.